Lauf has released a new gravel bike called the Seigla. It's an evolution of the brand's True Grit gravel bike and features much improved tire clearance and drop stays that give around 4 mm of vertical displacement when it hits a bump in the road. In recent years, Lauf has teased us with patents for a full suspension gravel bike using glass fiber leaf-sprung technology, similar to that seen on its Grit SL fork. This bike is still some time away, but the Seigla represents the fruit of the development process of the full suspension concept. The Lauf Seigla sees some significant changes from the True Grit, while retaining many of the bike's other features. The changes are in response to the development of gravel riding as a distinct and varied cycling discipline. Despite improved compliance, the Seigla is still a race bike, and Lauf wanted to maintain the same geometry and handling characteristics of the True Grit with the new bike. As such, don't expect a multitude of bag, rack and fender mounts or dropper post compatibility. The True Grit will remain in Lauf's range, for a while at least, as will the rigid Lauf Anywhere. Snorri Tryggvason/Lauf. Lauf Seigla key details. The Seigla frame differs completely from the True Grit, with Lauf redesigning the chassis from the bottom up. A medium frame, painted black, with hardware and axle, weighs 1,163 g+/50 g. More room for rubber. First and foremost, in our eyes, is the increase in tire clearance at the rear. This was one of our major criticisms of the True Grit, because clearance was limited to 4.5C rubber, compromising both mud clearance and comfort. It has also been fairly well accepted that in many circumstances, wider tires can be faster. Snorri Tryggvason/Lauf. Lauf has opted to use a BSA 73 bottom bracket shell, rather than the usual BSA 68. It has also drastically altered the shape of the chainstays as they leave the bottom bracket area, with a deep but narrow carbon plate offering all the strength necessary, while allowing wider tires. This plate is only 6 mm thick, yet it's solid carbon fiber, and as such, should be resistant to damage from dropped or sucked chains. The chainstays have not been elevated either. Lauf explains that doing this can compromise their compliance, especially if only one side is dropped, and that the straighter tubes are stronger, with better fiber flows. As such, bikes are now rated to 700 x 57C, or 29 times 2.25 in tires. None of this has been done at the expense of chainstay length, though, with the Icelandic brand retaining the much shorter than average 425 mm chainstay length on the bikes. The obvious consequence of moving to a wider BB shell is that crank choice is relatively limited. Lauf requested SRAM build cranks with a longer axle for the bikes, and as such, the Q factor is increased by 5 mm. Snorri Tryggvason/Lauf. However, Lauf points out that it's still narrower in Q factor than a Shimano GRX crank on a 68 mm bottom bracket. It's also thus managed to avoid using mountain bike chain sets, which again, would impact on the Q factor. Using the wider bottom bracket shell allows, apparently, for better carbon fiber flows from the bottom bracket to the chainstays too. The other consequence of the increased tire clearance is that this bike is only able to accept a single chainring drivetrain setup. However, with around 90% of True Grit customers opting for a 1X drivetrain already, this is not deemed an issue. Likewise, the bike is aimed heavily towards wireless drivetrains. 85% of True Grit customers choose SRAM's wireless drivetrains, and all stock builds will feature SRAM XPLR group sets. Wired and mechanical rear derailleurs can be fitted, with the chainstay protector handling cable routing duties at the rear of the bike. Snorri Tryggvason/Lauf. Softer stays. The next major update is the use of drop seat stays, giving the rear triangle much more vertical compliance again to increase comfort. The whole architecture of the frame had to be reimagined to achieve this. The chainstays are built to have flex in them, after the broad plate providing tire clearance has narrowed to a conventional shape and size. Snorri Tryggvason/Lauf. The seat stays then attach to the seat tube much lower down than before. They're thin as you look at them from the side, encouraging flex, but thicker as you look from the top, resisting twist. As the rear wheel hits a bump and your body weight effectively pushes down on the saddle, the stays push on the seat tube, bowing it inward slightly. The junction of top tube and seat tube also had to be reshaped, with the top tube thinning as it approaches the seat tube junction. If it didn't, the flex would be transferred further down the top tube. Furthermore, a regular seat clamp is used, because integrated ones require more structure to be built down the seat tube, which may inhibit flex. Snow-ride Tryggvason/Lauf. Lauf has also given the Seigla a slacker seat tube angle. This increases the effective leverage on the seat tube, increasing its compliance. Seat posts extend roughly 14 to 20 mm more for a given seat height, compared to the True Grit, further increasing compliance. However, in order to maintain the same geometry as the True Grit, the effective seat angle, at a representative saddle height, has been maintained at 72.5 degrees. At full seat post extension, the angle is 72.4 degrees, while with the seat post drop to its lowest, the effective seat angle is 72.6 degrees. Adding the structures to the frame to allow for this flex has added around 25 g to the overall frame weight, bringing it to 1,160 g for a painted size medium with no rear axle. Lauf claims that the level of compliance is similar to a Trek checkpoint with its ISO speed decoupler, and slightly less than the Kingpin system on the Cannondale Topstone, because on the Cannondale the seat stays meet the seat tube lower down comparatively. Compliance, as measured by the saddle to rear axle vertical distance, has increased by 3 times over the True Grit, to 10 mm, and is bolstered by increased tire volumes too. Snow-ride Tryggvason/Lauf. Other smaller frame updates include the use of SRAM's UDH derailleur hanger. There's no official dropper post routing, though wireless, 27.2 mm diameter posts could be installed easily. Lauf also says the rear cable routing can be modified by a professional, according to its instructions. However, we would urge you to contact Lauf before going ahead with any modifications to your frame. The brand has also altered the way in which the aluminium bottom bracket shell is held in the carbon frame. A sandblasted alloy blank is cured in place, and is then reamed and threaded, giving a better connection in the frame and more accurate alignment. Lauf uses a normal carbon fiber for its frames, rather than lighter high-modulus materials. This, it says, is because these lighter carbon layups can be harsher in feel, thanks to the fibers being locked in, and they're 2-3x less impact resistant. Grid SL updates. The Grid SL fork is one of the defining features of Lauf's gravel bike. The distinct-looking leaf-sprung suspension fork offers 30 mm of travel via a dozen glass-fibre leaf springs. Snow-ride Tryggvason/Lauf. The Grid SL fork has seen minor adjustments to work with wider tires. This means the axle to crown length is 8 mm longer than it was before, though Lauf has chopped around 5 mm off the head tube length, resulting in 3 mm extra stack height. It has also given the shoulders of the fork a broader form, to prevent the wider tires buzzing the crown at the limits of the travel. Snow-ride Tryggvason/Lauf. Lauf has also moved to a 12x 100 mm bolt-through angle, rather than the previous 15x 100 mm, mirroring general trends in the market, and opening up wheel compatibilities. Lauf Seigla geometry. Lauf has maintained almost identical geometry from the True Grit. Its geometry concept utilizes short chainstays at the rear for quick handling and stiffness, with the front end longer, giving the stability needed on loose surfaces, and when riding fast. It's a shape that's been inspired by cross-country mountain bikes. Lauf Seigla models. Lauf will be offering the Seigla with 3 builds, based around SRAM's Rival, Force and Red group sets, with E*13 wheels, FSA finishing kit, and its own glass fiber infused smoothie handlebar. Bikes will ship with 40C tires initially, though 45C tires will follow. Lauf believes that go-fast gravel bikes are better with 700C or 29IN wheels, and given the increased tire clearance for these larger diameter wheels, 650B options will not be offered. Snow-ride Tryggvason/Lauf. Snow-ride Tryggvason/Lauf. Snow-ride Tryggvason/Lauf. The bikes will also be offered with a rigid fork, for riders who don't want the Grid SL fork. This option will cost $350/£260/300 less than the version with a grit fork.